Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our weekly Trade the Chain AMA. If you don't know what that stands for, it's Ask Me Anything. Generally, an open forum for questions from the members to us on anything they want to know, whether it's regarding the platform or regarding anything in the market, whether it's opinions or commentary. So you have the chat box. Use it, ask the questions, interact. What's up, Chris? And we will get to it. Joined by Nick Mancini, Trade the Chain's Director of Research and Chief Community Officer, and both CJ and Monte, who are Trade the Chain Senior Market Analysts here. We have a lot of new people onto the platform that came over from Market Rebellion at the beginning of the month. We're excited to see the action in the community Discord server. So thank you for guys for participating in that, all you new members to us. So wanted to go over a couple things real quick before we dive in. That's a reminder on the weekly shows and the newsletters. So we get if you write into support@tradethechain.com, that goes to our help desk. And when people we get a lot of questions as they come onto the platform and stuff. Some people aren't getting emails, or some people don't know when shows or programming is going on, and we put those in the Discord server. So if you're in there, that goes to everybody, so it automatically gives you an alert when we do those on a day-over-day basis. But we also try to shoot out emails pertaining to that too. So I'll go over real quick. We have CJ and Monte. They do the Money in Motion morning show, and that's Monday through Friday. So that's the first 15-20 minutes to start your day on the trading in the trading markets. On Monday, we also have at 2 p.m. Eastern time Trading Rebellion. That's with CJ, Monte, Nick, and myself. Tuesday, we have 12:45 p.m. Eastern time. That's Squawk Box with Nick Mancini. That's the midday markets outlook. As well as Wednesday, we have this AMA midday in lieu of Squawk Box at 12:30 Eastern time each week. Also Thursday, we have Trading Rebellion again, and Friday we cap it off with Squawk Box in the afternoon. But you will not miss Money in Motion from CJ and Monte, which is every morning during those days. Important newsletters we have. Listen, I'm going to start with CJ's COT data newsletter. He puts out the futures report basically from us in the afternoon on Sundays. That's a great way to get a jump on your week. We have the TTC weekly community, which is the deep dive analysis from Nick on Monday. And we have we have COTM, which is put out by Doug, who you don't see on camera. And COTM stands for Coins on the Move.
We should get Doug out on one of these. Why not, right?
Hey, he called Stormax, and Stormax pumped after his call. So I think he's earned his spot on the show, at least one.
Gotta send him an honorary bottle of whiskey to get him on the show, Alex.
100%. Because so I've had him on the show before. And he will only come on the show if he gets to drink a glass of whiskey while he's doing it. That's how because he's not an in front of the camera kind of guy. But if you look at Coins on the Move and the performance that newsletter has had from Doug over the last year and a half, you'd be astounded. I'll have to get some hard figures on that. And then, of course, on Friday, 4:30 p.m., we have the weekly roundup. And that is the weekly market wrap up, and that's from Monte. He puts that out. So we got you covered. The only day anybody's taken off on newsletters is Saturday. So hope that helps with you guys with the programming. Also, I want to let everybody know, and I think this goes out on socials in a little bit from us. We do have new listings that we put up, on the Trade the Chain sentiment platform from time to time again. And I'll explain to you how that works. But the new listing that we put up is Blur, which is the aggregate NFT trading platform, which has been all the hype since what, guys? December of last year or so. So Blur's really kind of knocked it out of the park, giving optionality to how you trade NFTs. Ticker is BLUR. So if you go to the coins page, And I'll show you that real quick. Go over to the coins page. This is the coins page. You can look up Blur, and you can just go up in the upper left-hand corner here, type in the ticker you're looking for so you don't have to sort through all the coins, and there you go. So Blur is the new listing that we have at Trade the Chain right now. That's about it from my point of view. I'll just do the markets real quick on an overview on the dashboard. If you guys haven't logged in, if you're new, try doing that. There's a lot of information there for you guys to take a look at. But here we go. Total market cap 1.2 trillion, pretty much even on the day. Trading volume overall 30.3 billion, which has been pretty light and average as of late. Bitcoin inching up towards that optical 30K mark again, 29,900, but extremely flat. But look at the daily sentiment, 63 out of 100, pushing bullish. Same with Ethereum. Ethereum daily sentiment's at 55 out of 100 neutral, but yesterday I could tell you it was in the low 40s after a lot of panicking from the previous day sell-offs on Bitcoin. We have REP, which is unusual on the top price gainers there to the mid right. REP is Augur. That's 29% up over the last 24 hours. We have XLM there, 13% up. So, and we have Cream Finance up nearly 10%. But we see the sentiment to the right there showing red bearish indication. So we'll see where that goes. Also on this main page, the hottest on Twitter, ACH Alchemy Pay up 340% in tweet volume. And the most bullish RLC, Tomo, GLM, MXC, ONT, and Matic are the most bearish on the day so far. Down here, we got exchange flows. Click over the 24-hour. We'll see it's pretty much even. Yeah, a couple of big flows, but then we had a lot of stable coin exchange outflows. 82 million just taken out at 3 a.m. GMT. So interesting stuff over there. Here on the coin screener page, we have mostly green as we come into the hour, a lot of price rising. Yesterday, we could see that the 24-hour time period was a lot of red before we start getting more positive price action. But folks, definitely check out the coin screener page. Forget price change. You got hourly, daily, long-term sentiment, and the 1 hour projected. So take a look at that when you guys get a chance. It's a powerful trading tool. Okay, so macro overview, guys. Monte, what are you going to do for us? Wait,
one more thing before we dive in, Alex. Actually,
yes,
if you don't mind, we have a new main channel in TTC for those of you who haven't noticed in the Discord, and that is the TTC Trade Insight channel, marked by the magnet. And that will be a channel in which we'll be publishing trade insights with entries, exits, and stop losses. So thank you for pulling that up, Alex.
Brand new.
It is there. Brand new, brand spanking new. We're gonna get working on those, and usually they're, they could be daily trades, they could be weekly trades. I know CJ sometimes even goes with some longer term trades, but crypto, finance, derivatives, we trade it all. FX, commodities. CJ will, get you into some, cattle futures if that's what you're fancying. But either way, we cover all the bases there, and like I said, we put entries, exits, stop losses, and a picture of the chart so you know what we're trading. And just keep an eye on that in the Discord.
Super excited about that. And if any of you guys caught this morning's Money in Motion show, you then saw CJ get very, very vocal, very aggressive, very worked up.
What was that about again?
Nobody remembers what it was about. We just know that you got worked up. It was awesome. Your painting behind you went crooked. It was a great show. So
yeah, he was quite worked up. That's how you know it's a good show, when CJ gets passionate like that. But Alex, if you would like me to take over, I will go ahead and and dive in. And I wanted to start with something that we haven't talked about in quite a while, and something that Nick and I often discuss, and that is ETHBTC. And I mean, look at this downtrend that it's been in, essentially since September of 2022. You know,
I
this thing has been
think
given.
I think you're on Discord. You're showing the
Oh.
TPC community
Sorry.
Discord, which is fine. It had a few charts on it.
Let me excuse me. There we go. Okay. So look at this downtrend. Continuing to slope down, continuing to get beat up. And you got to wonder, like, where is this one going to make a bottom? And I think there's two ways to look at this. One, look at the ETHBTC pair, but two, also take a look at Bitcoin dominance. I think both of those are two very important pieces of the puzzle. And what I'm actually seeing from ETHBTC, and I would love to get Nick's take on this as well, is let me take out this indicator, excuse me. We got this lower high here, or higher low, excuse me. And, now we're moving back up into this range of about 0.63. To me, this looks ready to make a move back up to about 0.67. And when we see that sort of price action, what that typically means is that we see outperformance from the alts. We see a lot of high beta price action, a lot of risk on price action, people willing to take bets on some of the altcoins that typically they would not be taking bets on. And that happens during periods like this, or like this. All of those have been marked by outperformance, not just of ETH to BTC, but of all of the altcoins to ETH and to BTC. It's that sort of flow of capital that we talk about all the time where, we have Bitcoin at the top at the one end, and then you have, ETH, and then you have the altcoins. So you have this capital flowing downstream. And I think we're very much seeing that. But now you also have, an additional piece of the puzzle being the crypto related equities. We'll get to those in a bit. But looking at this, to me, I'm seeing a move back up to 0.67. And with that, I'm seeing some altcoin outperformance. Now, moving over to Bitcoin dominance quickly, like I said, kind of another piece of the same puzzle. Take a look at this one. So, looking at this chart, what I am expecting to see is a pullback to about this level here, about 48%. We had a really nice run of outperformance from Bitcoin. I think a lot of it had to do with the performance of crypto-related equities and their outperformance of the market in general, of course. And then, also we saw some massive risk-off price action in the altcoins. But then we got the XRP news acting as a massive catalyst to drive, the alts up hard. And I think that we could plausibly see a pullback to this level in conjunction with a move up in that ETH-BTC pair, telling us that it is, risk on time for the altcoins. So those are just, two of the big pieces. But I'd say the final piece to think about, and this is something that, there are really two pieces to look at. One would be sentiment. I would keep a close eye on sentiment of any of the altcoins that you're trading. Not only looking at sentiment, but also looking at the amount of 24-hour change in USD. If you're seeing a big spike in, I like to look at volume, but also relative tweet volume as well has been a very nice indicator for a lot of assets that have kind of preceded the pump. XRP still up, massively in terms of relative tweet volume and relative trading volume.
Look at that volume on trading, man. And by the way, I think XRP trading volume exceeded Bitcoin trading volume this week, if I'm not mistaken.
It did.
It did. Yes, you are correct. And that is a pretty astonishing fact, but a fact that is true nonetheless. And where do we go from here, I think, is the real question. I think we see a lot of this capital that has flown into XRP kind of flow back into the other altcoins. Now, where do you want to put that capital? I think there's a lot of different ways to look at that, but CJ posted something in the Discord this morning about how funding rates have reset. And I think that is the final piece of the puzzle would be the funding rates. And that's something I'd watch closely. As you can see here, mostly neutral. Very few, besides comp and like some OG DeFi names, very few are looking skewed to either the long or the short side. So that's what you'd want to see prior to altcoin outperformance. So those are the 4 pieces of the puzzle for me. You have, first and foremost, you have the technicals with ETH, BTC, and Bitcoin dominance. Then also you have the sentiment around those given assets. I would keep an eye on that. Funding rate as well. Now that it's kind of reset after that massive XRP bomb and that that bombshell was dropped, funding rate has come back to normal, and I think the market is ready to climb higher. So putting all those pieces together, to me, the picture is looking bullish, and that is the way I'm going to be leaning for the rest of this week and into the weekend.
All right, Nick, you what are your thoughts on the macro overview here?
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed signals in the market right now. This is probably going to be one of the more confusing 10 days, 7 days of trading, in my opinion. Looking at the dollar right here, if you were watching the TTC stream yesterday, I actually lined out this exact range and said, break higher is where I'm going to be looking for a weakening price action from risk markets, because it is my belief that a move up to 101 and especially a break of 101 is the bearish scenario. But I think as it moves towards 101, it's going to take a little bit of sales out of the risk markets, and that certainly does strike some fear into me. Although we could crash back down into this range by tomorrow or the weekend, and that would negate my current feelings about DXY. So we'll be very closely monitoring this. But to see 3 green soldiers after a bottom and above the range that it formed over several days, that's certainly trigger 1 for potentially bearish risk. Looking at equities, we actually had beautiful rise overnight, but immediately cut back down, and this is where I start thinking about divergence territory. And a confirmed divergence would be S&P 500 back under 45.90 with a confirmation, and then moving lower. If that happens, it would be the worst case scenario that I was fearing at these times. And of course, my fears were negated at that time, so they could certainly be negated again. But big fear right here. This is ultimate deviation territory. And remember, we spoke on Trading Rebellion. FOMC week is next week. We're expecting a 25 basis point hike, and most of the time heading into FOMC, risk markets are flat or bearish when expecting a rate hike. So that's point number 2. And then I'm looking at the Bitcoin chart, and these are the lines that we drew for the TTC community. Immediately rejected off the VWAP, multiple previous rejections off the VWAP, barely could reclaim it yesterday evening. And now we're staring down support again. So if we break below, 29.8, I'll definitely be looking for 29.5 again. If we break below 29.5, I'll be looking for 29.1. And then alternatively, if we do get a little bit of gusto after the session into Thursday and we break above the 30K flat level, I'm actually loving the fact that the weekly VWAP is sitting at 30K flat. It couldn't be more perfect in my opinion. But if we do break above 30K, I'll flip long, but I'm currently positioned shorts, as I told the TTC community this morning. I am certainly not a happy bear, but I do have an inkling of a feeling that a certain large electric vehicle maker needs free cash flow, as they only have about 500 million on deck. They just launched a bunch of price cuts. They have a glut of supply internationally. And how do you raise cash? Well, you sell the 9,000 Bitcoin on your balance sheet, or you sell a portion of it. And we've seen a lot of, and I would be shocked, we definitely know the US government was selling. We saw Silk Road wallets move into exchanges. We also saw hundreds of millions of crypto inflows early this week. And then we also saw a $100 million pre-mine Ethereum allocation send $100 million to Kraken yesterday.
Wasn't that
All
crazy?
Of these things, go ahead, Alex.
Wasn't that crazy?
That's insane. I'm watching the U.S. government sell. I'm watching massive amounts of high net worth individuals transfer to exchanges. I'm seeing $100 million worth of ETH get transferred to exchanges. The U.S. government was just selling, And Tesla is the most likely seller out of anyone who holds Bitcoin on their balance sheet right now, and their earnings are this evening.
This is the most bearish conversation I've had in a long time.
I know. I'm sorry to be. It doesn't make me happy doing this, but what we do is help people make money, and this is my opinion right now, and I'm positioned for it. So I'm eating my own dog food. I'm not just spitting out stuff to spit it. So that's just my thesis now. If Tesla does not sell today, I certainly think that we could see a little pop into Thursday. But a lot of this crypto being sent to exchanges certainly strikes fear in me as DXY is rising, and therefore I'm taking a bit of the opposite position of Monte. But I'm happy to be proven wrong if Bitcoin can break above 30K today or tomorrow.
Okay, all right, CJ, what do we got?
All right, yeah. So I guess I'll start sharing and then just go over some of my previous positions. Been dropping a lot of macro charts in the community because I think they're kind of interesting. But yeah, here, why don't we first check out some stuff in Discord? We also have a lot of discussion about rates. I'll get to that in a second. We just did recently have the VIX go underneath 14%, and when it stays that, or when it goes that low, historically, going back to 1985, we stay in that channel of kind of trending, or I guess you could say climbing the wall of worry for a pretty long time, or at least we have historically. So I agree, with Tesla, who knows if they come out or what they do. That's all short-term type stuff. I'm kind of looking at more like longer-term charts. When you look at something like that, I think it's quite compelling. I also like this concept where basically the tweet reads, people think 21 crypto cycle can't happen again. And if it's only possible, it's in a low interest rate environment with fiscal easing. But in 1997 to 2001, the dot-com bubble was bigger. We all know that. And interest rates were actually hiking in that type of environment, and there was no easing. And we had pretty much the biggest bubble of, aside from the 80s over, the last 20 years. So I think that's something that you have to kind of be flexible enough to kind of realize as a macro fund manager, or just somebody kind of looking at this market from a longer term perspective. As far as like my positions and things that I've been trading, the dollar has been one of the most highly shorted futures. When you look at the COT oscillator on the top there, when we are at levels from 95 to 100, we look to typically long when there's technical market confirmation. But today you're kind of seeing that with the bullish candle and what we've seen. So I am long dollar as one of my trades because we are starting to see kind of a reversal of last week's extreme sentiments. And I think that if we end up bottoming on this news, which we have thus far, I think it's going to be quite interesting, and we'll look back on that time of last week as like true capitulation within the dollar, because this was posted right around the market low. However, I say quite a lot. There's two forms of trading that I really engage in. I guess one is more like investing, where I pick very large secular bets, things like coin, for instance. But then like trading as far as income and trading COT futures, I'm making a lot of trades. I guess not a lot, but 2 a week or 1 a week at minimum usually. So as a result of that frequency, I'm not going to be right all the time. I'm only going to be right statistically about 35 to 40% of the time. Therefore, I'm not really good enough to predict direction all the time in order to make money, using this strategy. Therefore, it's more about positioning and picking two assets that are crowded and kind of playing them against each other. So an example of this, long dollar is traditionally a risk off trade. Well, then I have to go find a risk on trade that has similar positioning at the dollar that can essentially hedge this position. And what we've talked earlier about in the week in terms of finding an indice to go buy to hedge a risk off position, for me, it's in the Russell, because while we're not at 95 to 100, we still are at 82 within the Russell 2000, and there's the most relative shorts, in the Russell relative to any other indice, whether it be NASDAQ, ES, Dow, you name it. So that's along, in my opinion, I'm playing those two positions kind of against one another, but sometimes they're actually both working because, if people are being forced to cover their shorts and we're getting kind of a forced liquidation in the dollar, then there is a situation where both of these assets can work for you and actually can make money. Now, of course, that is a double-edged sword that cuts both ways, but I think it's more important to start thinking about positioning in terms of trading as opposed to just direction in terms of risk on, risk off. Last point I'll make in terms of Russell is like when we compare it to the positioning and the lagging nature of a lot of what these indices have experienced, NASDAQ is typically a leader because of its allocation of large cap stocks. That led the rally, or I should say the short squeeze, going back to April. Then you had ES follow it. And then thirdly, Dow came in and has made new local highs. And now finally, you talk about like altcoins and the meta game and the rotations. I'm seeing a very similar thing in the indices. It just takes like 5 times as long because the market's way bigger. But this is one that's, testing resistance and can certainly continue trending higher if we continue to see that rotation. So being long Russell and then having a hedge in long dollar is basically how I'm positioned this week. And that's just a result of positioning, sentiments, and a little bit of technicals defining risk. So
I loved how much money could have been and was made in the Russell as we went through COVID. I mean, with what's encompassed within the basket of the Russell, it was just a perfect breeding ground for alpha, long alpha particularly, when we went into COVID lockdown. So it's interesting to see how that's performed over the last 3 years. Now, hold on a sec. We had.
I also like CJ's point about the hedging. I think it is hedge season, and it's something that I think CJ was talking about it from a higher time frame, but I think also on a lower time frame. And just to give example, anyone in the TTC community has probably been laughing at me for the past couple of days because I've been.
You think it's just been a couple of days?
Well, they've been laughing at me for the past couple of days because I've been nailing trades, but I haven't been closing at the right time. And yesterday was the perfect example of this, as well as the day before. Is I was very well in profit. I moved my stops up to break even, maybe close 25% or whatever. But if you are up that much, and let's say you have a dinner, you have a family event, you're going to bed, but you're still confident in your trade, what you should do is throw a hedge out there, because at worst, you wake up at the same amount of money that you went to sleep with, or whatever your event was. And at best, you can actually return back some capital if you end up, if the trade reverses on you. And I've watched that happen more times than I want to admit this week. And I've been trying to work on my hedging strategy to make sure that I retain profits, because anyone who's been trading for the past week we've been sitting in, $100, $200, $300 range for Bitcoin, and it hasn't been that much wider for altcoins either.
Nick, we're looking at your wins right now in the winner's circle.
I mean, yeah.
He knows.
And I wish I could tell you that I took home 100% of all of that ROI. I only took home about 25-50% of all of that ROI because I did not close at the right time, and B, I did not hedge, which also helps with not being able to close at the right time. I think I'm a better entry trader than I am an exit trader, which we all have our own skills. But I wanted to mention, CJ has a good point there that you should think about hedges, whether or not it's a high time frame or lower time frame, because it is likely that we get more volatility than just a straight rise up as we move into Q4 in 2024. So it doesn't mean we won't have bullish chop and you could be rewarded for that, but I think it's more likely we see some painful volatility before we just start, zooming up again. So that's just my thought, and it's a skill that everybody can take home and work on.
Yeah, but my question is, as we go into the middle of summer right now, what are we looking at for volatility, right? Because volatility is one of the main ingredients that creates successful trades for us. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And it's easier to pick up on signals during periods of volatility. We're not always right on that either. But what are we expecting as far as volatility? We've had $33 million, global trading volume days now repeatedly. I mean, when XRP news hit, we hit 68 billion. I loved it, but that's what used to be the norm. What are we doing now?
We got VIX at like 14 and 13.
I mean, Alex, like how often? I'm sorry, I think I broke up.
Yeah, you did. Go ahead.
Am I
You're
still
back
with you
now.
guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I got a million apps running. But to your point, Alex, we're on a Wednesday. We're in the middle of the trading week. Everybody should be eyes on screens, money in the accounts, clicking buttons, right?
Yeah.
Minus 20% volume on Ethereum. Same thing for Bitcoin. And that is volatility. Is there, if the lack of volume means lack of volatility. And
but
so
the trouble is it's not the profitable volatility, it's the slowdown.
I was gonna say a lack of volume doesn't necessarily mean a lack of volatility. In fact, a lack of volume could mean a spike in volatility in the sense that prices drop significantly and we see volatility rise. CJ, you shared a really interesting chart this morning about volatility. Do you still have that available to share? Because I think that's very poignant for what we're speaking about.
You mean just the macro VIX?
Yeah, the macro VIX outlook.
Well, another thing is, we look at implied volatility, we look at unwanted volatility, and
CJ just sent us down a kaleidoscope.
Yeah, that was
sorry. Grateful Dead concert. Sorry.
Unwanted volatility in the market or surprise volatility are things like, if you're watching whale wallets, there's been a lot of movement across a number of vaults this week with whale wallets, going to nick on 100 and something million in pre-mined Ethereum. I mean, those are things where we could get unwanted volatility that necessarily going to hurt our positions. So you got to be mindful of that.
Yeah, it is interesting when everybody, I mean, it's tough to say everybody, but what I've seen, especially with a lot of fund managers like closer to me, they have this weird feeling like when the VIX gets under 15 or 14 that it has to like mean revert to 20.
Yeah.
And I think that chart is just an interesting example of like those, like volatility can be suppressed for quite a while, especially now that like market breadth is improving, and you have a lot of the small caps and regional banks actually catching up to the bigger names that have led. So yeah, we'll see. It's a tough, there's no absolute real conclusion, I don't think. A lot of nuance.
I want to kind of put a bow on this with a crap coin and get your guys' idea on this. So we have Reddit, their Moons token. Crypto.com has added it. I don't spend much time on Reddit. When I go to Reddit, it's for a particular cause. But does Reddit need a Moons token? I don't know why you guys.
What is that particular cause?
No. But
I'm thinking about what knowledge he needs to acquire on Reddit.
I don't.
Wait, nope, okay. So if you guys don't mind, let me go on a rant real quick, CJ style. All right. So I had been a big fan of Reddit. Not too surprising if you know me at all. I'm your typical Reddit user.
Chris is getting some good material.
Yeah, this is good material for Chris to roast me later. So, but anyways, I spend a lot of time on Reddit. I had a decent amount of karma. Even I would post stuff like about PC building forums or even stuff on cryptocurrency forums, like r/Bitcoin or r/cryptocurrency. Even using those as like gauges of sentiment. Before you guys even built Trade the Chain, like I used to kind of do that, but now it's a lot easier with the Trade the Chain dashboard. But Reddit recently has made some of the worst business decisions in the history of business, and that is not an exaggeration. Their CEO Spez has basically given a giant middle finger to the user base. And he's essentially stated that the value is not the users or their posts. The value is the servers and the maintenance that they provide on those servers, which is the most ridiculous BS thing I've ever heard in my life. Anyone can maintain servers if you have enough money. But what made Reddit so special was all those posts. You can go in there and you can find a recipe about how to bake lemon chicken or how to build a I'm not going to say it, but anything, you know.
I go in for the lemon chicken recipes, just so you know.
Okay, sure thing, whatever you say. But essentially they jacked up the price of their API so that third-party apps that want to access Reddit, much of them are accessibility based. So for people that are either, you know, are blind or are unable to use the app in the traditional manner, they jacked up those API prices. And in the way that the iOS and Android subscriptions work, the Google Play Store, these people are being forced to pay this money until their contract expires. So I don't know if you guys heard, but there's a massive Reddit blackout in the last couple of weeks. It's still going on in some subreddits. So now, and they were planning on going public this year. That is not going to happen anymore. So this token may be their kind of way of going public without going public, but now's a terrible time to do so. Even their own community hates them. So I don't know who would be a buyer of that token.
Reddit's always had a historical problem with making money, I believe.
Yes, that is 100% true. They are not a profitable company, despite the fact that they have millions of users. They have never been able to turn a revenue. And that's kind of what they were aiming to do with this API thing. I think there were a lot better ways to go about it. Like just listing your company as a publicly traded company, I think would have been a better way to go. But to take this sort of action before you do that, I think it's detrimental to the longevity of Reddit. And honestly, I don't like, if you would have asked me 6 months ago what I think of Reddit, I would tell you I love it. It's one of my favorite, sites. But now,
what a silly name to Moon's token. Like, just call it Reddit token. Reddit has a great brand. Nobody hates saying Reddit.
Yeah, what is the revenue? What's the revenue model? I just saw Chris jump in there. I was waiting to ask Monte, but how do they make their money?
I mean, they make a slight amount of money through advertisements, but other than that, they don't really have a whole lot of way of converting, user growth into revenue. And they've taken a pretty staunch stance against advertisement in the past.
What about like gold and silver?
I'm pretty sure their model is data selling. Obviously, their APIs just got jacked. I think they have the internal currency. They have like gold and tipping and stuff like that. And then I think a small amount of ads. I think like if you want to have like a super premium community and do like certain admin stuff, I think you have to pay for certain stuff.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not a Reddit power user because Discord rakes it in. Like Discord, you have to pay $10 a month to get access to all the emojis. Your community is like, $50. And then you have to like boost it 14 times to get like the maximum stuff, which is like $3 a boost. So you're paying basically 50 a month just to run the community. And most of your members are paying $10 a month. So
folks, we are fully boosted at Trade the Chain. So we spend the money to give you the experience. Sorry, shameless plug there.
Yeah, Reddit is
a lot of people know we're boosted. We're not a broke community.
We're fully boosted. But Reddit went from essentially being this like kumbaya, like, oh, it's for the people, by the people, into a greedy, like, just, I don't know, just they did a complete 180. And their Moon token, if I had to guess, will fail.
Dude, all they have to do is add some type of AI integration into Reddit. It doesn't even have to work, and it'll go up.
Just really
We're talking too much about fundamentals again. It's like the Apple discussion weeks ago. Anyways,
wait, Apple literally just announced today that they're launching Apple GPT. Like that's not a meme. That's a real thing.
That came out today. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about an AI project, just shill something. I don't own it. The token doesn't even exist yet. This is something that Monte and I were talking about earlier. You guys have probably heard of it, but just to ask straight up, are you guys familiar with Sam Altman's project WorldCoin? Have you heard about it at all? The WorldCoin.
Yeah, they're set up in like malls and
the world has heard of WorldCoin.
So basically, for those who don't know, like the whole pitch behind this is that it's going to solve deep fakes as they become better and more prevalent. Who knows if this is actually the case, but as long as people believe it, that's all that really matters. But basically what you do is you have a public wallet, and the way that you verify your own identity is you go to these orb verification sites. Now there's only three in the United States. There's a couple in Canada as well. Only 2 million people worldwide have scanned their eyes into the orb. I assume you get some airdrop for when the token launches later this year. But it's like VC funded, very Solana type vibes in terms of like the VCs who are promoting it and backing it. Who knows if it ends up doing anything in terms of price, but it's got a lot of big names attached to it. There's the AI components, decent elevator pitch. And I don't think crypto people will buy it because they'll sell it as some dystopian thing that they don't want to support. Ironically, that'll lead them to not buy it. And if it starts creeping up in price, they still won't buy it, which might mean that price just goes even higher till everybody kind of FOMOs in. Perhaps that happens, perhaps it doesn't. Either way, I'm not going to one of these orbs and scanning my eyes. It's basically like walking into the police station and giving you their fingerprints.
Do you get WorldCoin from signing up? Like, why am I volunteering to enter the world of 1984? Like, why am I doing that?
Did CJ just make reference to turning yourself into the cops before you commit a crime type thing?
This is like, yeah, what I said is
it's right,
like going into the police station to give your fingerprints. That's what this is, basically.
Oh, I filed mine off years ago. Mine are long gone.
But CJ, what do you get WorldCoin for doing these Orwellian actions? Like, I feel like you're signing yourself up for 1984. Like,
oh yeah, that's why crypto people hate it. But if deep fakes become like a serious problem, which they probably will, based on how good they are already, 5-10 years, this is probably a good idea. That's way too early for its time. But people like to speculate on stuff that is ahead of its time. So I'm not saying buy it. I have no coins. This is something that I'll be watching in 2024 as the next VC shill bag. We'll see.
I feel like
my thing is like, imagine a police officer coming up to you and being like, "Can you please scan your eyes to join our database? We'll give you $1." Like, no. Just because some guy's in a button down and khakis in the middle of the mall doesn't mean that they're not working with the cops to send their information or to send your information to them. So if someone asks you to scan your eyes to earn a couple of dollars, you're ending up in a database. So it's your own choice at the end of the day.
I don't know. I think it's all a little bit too weird.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrifying. And there's got to be a better way to differentiate a deep fake from a genuine video than scanning the eyeballs of every citizen in the United States. That to me, I'm where's the connection there? I don't get it.
CJ's point, there's only just over 2 million people signed up. I mean, that's
out of 7 billion on Earth.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a town or two in Iowa.
It's early. It's still early.
There is such a thing, CJ, as being too early too.
It's
called being wrong.
All right. Well, in honor of CJ and Chris, we are going to sign out today. But thank you all for joining. And this has been a fun discussion. All right, guys. We'll see you next week for our live AMA.